大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。今天我们要说的这个人，他有一个非常有趣的身份，他是福建乡下牧师的儿子，同时也是让西方世界第一次真正认识中国的那个人。他叫林语堂，1895年生于福建。他写的书在美国的畅销书排行榜上停留了超过2年。他的书把中国人的生活哲学用英文写给了全世界的读者。他说他这一生只做了一件事，就是在东西方文化之间架了一座桥，但他做这件事的方式让人惊喜，不是用学术论文，不是用沉重的历史著作，而是用他最喜欢的东西，轻松的笔触，幽默的态度，还有对生活的热爱。今天我们就来说说林语堂，这个用笑声做桥梁的人，这个告诉全世界中国人懂得生活的人。林语堂1895年10月10日出生，地点是福建省漳州府平和县板仔村，一个非常偏远的小山村。他的父亲林志成是一位基督教牧师，在那个时代的福建乡下，这是一个很特别的身份。林志成是一个非常开明的父亲，他相信教育，他希望孩子们能够走出那个山村，去看更大的世界。林语堂后来说他的父亲是他这一生最重要的影响者之一。父亲告诉他，你生在一个小地方，但你的眼睛要看到整个世界。林语堂从小就表现出对语言的天赋，他进入厦门鼓浪屿的学校读书，后来考入了上海的圣约翰大学。圣约翰大学是当时中国最好的英语教育机构之一，在那里他的英语能力突飞猛进。他后来去了美国哈佛大学攻读硕士，又去了法国和德国，最终在德国莱比锡大学获得了语言学博士学位。他在德国研究的是汉语的音韵学，他用西方语言学的研究方法去分析中文的语音系统，这在当时是非常新颖的学术取向。1919年他回到中国，在北京清华大学任教英语，后来转至厦门大学，又在上海多个学术机构任职。在这个时期，他开始创办杂志，他办过基本以幽默和批评著称的刊物，包括《论语》和《人间世》。他说他想用幽默做武器，把社会的荒谬说给所有人听。他是最早把英文的 humor 这个词翻译成中文幽默的人之一。他说中文本来没有一个对应的词，他想要引入这个概念，因为他认为真正的幽默是一种智慧，是一种对人性和世界的理解，而不只是让人笑的技巧。1935年，林语堂做了一个改变他一生命运的决定，他接受了美国出版商的邀请，用英文写一本介绍中国文化的书。这本书就是后来大名鼎鼎的《吾国与吾民》，英文名是 My Country and My People。 他说他写这本书的时候，下定决心不说谎，不美化，不刻意遮掩中国文化的弱点，同时也不刻意讨好西方读者。他说他要说真话。这本书在1935年出版之后，立刻在美国引发了广泛的关注。美国知识界的领袖人物读了都说，这是他们第一次真正理解中国是什么样的地方。著名作家赛珍珠为这本书写了序言。赛珍珠说林语堂写出了他20年在中国生活都莫能表达清楚的东西。《吾国与吾民》一书打开了林语堂在英语世界的大门。1937年，他出版了让他声望达到顶峰的著作《生活的艺术》，英文名是 The Importance of Living。 这本书在美国畅销书排行榜上停留了超过2年，这个成就在今天看来都非常惊人。生活的艺术讲的是什么？说起来很简单，就是怎么把日子过好。他从中国的传统哲学出发，从陶渊明，从苏东坡，从庄子，讲如何欣赏闲事，如何在忙碌中找到安静，如何用轻松的态度面对严肃的世界。他说西方人太严肃了，他说西方人把效率和进步当成了人生的唯一目标，忘记了活着本来应该是快乐的事情。他说中国人懂得一件西方人忘记的事， 那就是无所事事也是一种高贵的艺术。这个说法在1937年的美国让很多读者既惊讶又觉得被说中了。他说他最欣赏的人物之一是苏东坡。苏东坡这个宋代诗人在仕途上跌跌撞撞，被贬谪了一次又一次，但每到一个地方就把那个地方活得有声有色。贬到黄州就研究红烧肉，贬到惠州就说这里的荔枝很好吃。林语堂说苏东坡懂得人生的真谛，就是不管在什么处境，都要把眼前的生活过好。他说他自己也是这样活着的。除了写作，林语堂还有一个鲜为人知的爱好，他喜欢发明东西。他在30和40年代花了大量的时间和心力研究一部中文打字机。那个年代中文打字机是一个几乎无法解决的技术难题，因为中文有几万个字，要怎么设计一台机器，让打字员可以快速输入这些字，是一个让很多工程师头痛的问题。林语堂设计的方案叫做明快打字机，它的核心创新是用部件组合的方式来输入中文字，把常用的汉字部件分类排列，打字员可以用这个逻辑来拼出所有的汉字。这个构想在今天看来和电脑输入法的逻辑非常相似。他在1947年申请了专利，但这个发明让他耗尽了积蓄。他为的是研发打字机投入了数十万美元，最终却没有找到愿意商业化的厂商，这成了他一生中最大的财务挫折之一。但他没有被这件事击垮，他继续写作。他在1939年出版了小说《京华烟云》英文名 Moment in Peking。 这部小说描述了北京的一个大家族从甲午战争前后到8年抗战的命运，横跨几十年的历史。很多读者说这部小说让他们第一次从人性的角度，而不是从政治或历史的角度，理解了近代中国所经历的一切。林语堂在他的一生里住过很多地方，上海、北京、美国纽约、法国巴黎、新加坡、台湾台北、香港。他说他是一个没有故乡的人，但他说这对他来说不是痛苦，而是自由。他说他可以在任何地方生活，因为他的家在他的书桌上。他的妻子廖翠凤是他一生最重要的伴侣，他们在1919年结婚。林语堂说他这辈子最幸运的事情之一，就是娶了廖翠凤。他说廖翠凤给了他一个稳固的家，让他可以自由地在世界各地漂泊。他晚年移居台湾，在台北阳明山上建了一栋房子，那栋房子的设计融合了中西方的建筑元素。他说那是他这一生最自在的地方。1976年3月26日，林语堂在香港去世，享年80岁。他的骨灰葬在台北阳明山的故居庭院里，就在那栋融合了东西方的房子旁边。林语堂的一生让我们看到几件事。第一，桥梁不是天生就存在的，有人要去搭建它。林语堂在东西方之间搭起的桥梁，不是靠政治力量，不是靠金钱，而是靠一个人对两个世界的深刻理解和说清楚那些理解的意愿。这种工作没有掌声，但它改变了无数人理解世界的方式。第二，幽默是一种严肃的事情。他说幽默是智慧的表现。他把幽默引进中文，不是因为他想让大家笑，而是因为他觉得一个能够笑看自己的文化，是一个成熟的文化。第三，懂得生活的人不是懒散的人。他最著名的主张之一是闲适的重要，但林语堂自己是一个非常勤奋的人。他写了超过30本书，他研究了中文打字机几十年。他说懂得生活不是什么都不做，而是知道什么时候放下，然后全力以赴地去做你真正想做的事情。他说过一句话，一个人了解自己的程度，决定了他能走多远。也许这正是林语堂走得那么远的原因。他非常了解自己，他知道他是一个在两个世界之间的人，然后他把那个位置变成了力量。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I'm Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. The person we are talking about today has a very interesting identity. He was the son of a village pastor in Fujian Province. And at the same time he was the person who first gave the Western world a genuine understanding of China. His name was Lin Yutang. He was born in Fujian in 1895. The book he wrote stayed on the American bestseller list for more than 2 years. His writing brought Chinese life philosophy to readers around the world. In English, he said he only ever did one thing in his life. He built a bridge between Eastern and Western culture. But the way he did it was a delightful surprise. Not through academic papers. Not through heavy historical studies. But through his favorite things. A light touch. A sense of humor. And a deep love of living well. Today we are going to talk about Lin Yutang. The man who used laughter to build his bridge. The man who told the whole world that Chinese people know how to live. Lin Yutang was born on October 10, 1895. His birthplace was a remote mountain village in Fujian Province. A place called Bonsai, in Pingyi County. His father Lin Yutang was a Christian pastor. In rural Fujian in that era. That was a very distinctive role. Lin Yutang was an extraordinarily open-minded father. He believed deeply in education. He wanted his children to leave the village and go see a larger world. Lin Yutang said later that his father was one of the most important influences of his life. His father told him, "You were born in a small place, but your eyes must see the whole world." From a young age Lin Yutang showed a remarkable gift for languages. He studied at schools in Guangzhou, Xiamen, and later passed the entrance examination to St. John's University in Shanghai. St. John's was one of the finest English language educational institutions in China at the time. There his English developed rapidly. He later went to Harvard University in America for graduate study. Then to France and Germany. He eventually earned a doctorate in linguistics from the University of Leipzig. At Leipzig he studied the phonology of the Chinese language. He brought the methods of Western linguistics to bear on the sound system of Chinese. This was a genuinely new scholarly direction at the time. In 1919 he returned to China. He taught English at Tsinghua University in Beijing. Later he moved to Xiamen University and held positions at several other academic institutions in Shanghai. During this period he began founding magazines. He edited several publications known for their humor and social criticism, including the magazine Analects and the magazine Human World. He said he wanted to use humor as a weapon to hold up the absurdities of society for everyone to see. He was one of the first people to translate the English word humor into the Chinese term youmo. He said the Chinese language had no exact equivalent word before this. He wanted to introduce the concept because he believed real humor is a form of wisdom. A form of understanding human nature and the world. Not merely a technique for making people laugh. In 1935, Lin Yutang made a decision that would shape the rest of his life. He accepted an invitation from an American publisher to write a book about Chinese culture. In English, that book became the celebrated work Tid Led My Country and My People. He said when he wrote it, he made a firm decision not to lie, not to idealize, not to conceal the weaknesses of Chinese culture, but equally not to write for the approval of Western readers. He said he was going to tell the truth. After the book was published in 1935, it immediately drew wide attention in America. Leading intellectual figures said it was the first time they had genuinely understood what China was. The celebrated novelist Pearl Buck wrote the preface for the book. She said Lin Yutang had expressed what she had spent 20 years living in China without being able to say. My country and my people opened the door to the English-speaking world for Lin Yutang. In 1937, he published the work that brought his reputation to its peak. The book was called The Importance of Living. The book remained on the American bestseller list for more than 2 years. That achievement would be remarkable even by today's standards. What did the importance of living say? Put simply, it was about how to live well. He drew from traditional Chinese philosophy, from the poet Tao Yuanming, from Su Dongpa, from Zhuangzi. He wrote about how to appreciate leisure, how to find stillness in the midst of busyness, how to meet a serious world with a light heart. He said Westerners were too serious. He said they had made efficiency and progress their only life goals. They had forgotten that being alive is supposed to be pleasurable. He said Chinese people understood something that Westerners had forgotten. That doing nothing is itself a noble art. That idea startled many American readers in 1937. And also made many of them feel that something true had been said to them. One of his greatest admirations was for the Song dynasty poet Su Dongpa. Su Dongpa stummed repeatedly in his official career. He was sent into exile again and again. But wherever he was sent, he made the most of it. Sent to Huangzhou, he developed a recipe for braised pork belly. Sent to Huizhou, he wrote about how delicious the lychees were there. Lin Yutang said Su Dongpa understood the essential truth of life. That no matter what circumstances you find yourself in, you find a way to live that moment well. He said he himself tried to live the same way. Beyond his writing, Lin Yutang had an interest that very few people know about. He loved inventing things. In the 1930s and 1940s, he devoted enormous amounts of time and energy to designing a Chinese typewriter. In that era, a Chinese typewriter was one of the most daunting unsolved technical problems in the world. Chinese uses tens of thousands of characters. Designing a machine that would let a typist enter them quickly was a problem that had baffled many engineers. Lin Yutang's solution was called the Minkwai typewriter. His central innovation was a system of component-based input. Frequently used character components were arranged in categories. The typist could use this logic to assemble any Chinese character. This concept looks remarkably similar to the logic of modern computer input methods for Chinese. He received a patent in 1947. But the invention drained him completely. He invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the research and development, and ultimately found no manufacturer willing to commercialize it. It became one of the greatest financial setbacks of his life. But it did not break him. He kept writing. In 1939 he published the novel Tit Led Moment in Peking. The Chinese title was Jinghua Yangyun, meaning something like drifting clouds over the capital. The novel followed a prominent Beijing family. From the years around the First Sino-Japanese War, through the 8 years of resistance against Japan, across decades of history, many readers said this novel gave them the first chance to understand what modern China had experienced, not through the lens of politics or history, but through the lens of human lives and feelings. Throughout his life, Lin Yutang lived in many different places: Shanghai, Beijing, New York, Paris, Singapore, Taipei, Hong Kong. He said he was a man without a hometown. But he said that was not painful for him. It was freedom. He said he could live anywhere, because his home was at his writing desk. His wife Liao Cuifeng was the most important companion of his life. They married in 1919. Lin Yutang said one of the luckiest things that had ever happened to him was marrying Liao Cuifeng. He said she gave him a stable home that allowed him to wander freely across the world. In his later years he settled in Taiwan. He built a house on Yangming Mountain outside Taipei. The design of the house blended Chinese and Western architectural elements. He said it was the place in his whole life where he felt most at ease. On March 26, 1976, Lin Yutang died in Hong Kong. He was 80 years old. His ashes were buried in the garden of his home on Yangming Mountain, beside the house that held the East and West together. The life of Lin Yutang leaves us with several things. The first is this: a bridge does not exist on its own. Someone has to build it. The bridge Lin Yutang built between East and West was not built by political power or by money. It was built by one person's deep understanding of both worlds, and by a willingness to explain that understanding clearly. That kind of work receives little applause, but it changed the way countless people see the world. The second is this: humor is a serious thing. He said humor is the expression of wisdom. He introduced the concept of humor into Chinese, not to make people laugh, but because he believed a culture that can laugh at itself is a mature culture. The third is this: a person who knows how to live is not a lazy person. One of his most famous arguments was for the value of leisure. But Lin Yutang himself was extraordinarily productive. He wrote more than 30 books. He spent decades working on a Chinese typewriter. He said knowing how to live does not mean doing nothing. It means knowing when to set something down, and then giving yourself completely to what you truly want to do. He once said something that has stayed with me: how well a person knows themselves determines how far they can go. Perhaps that is exactly why Lin Yutang went so far. He knew himself very well. He knew he was a person standing between two worlds, and he turned that position into his greatest source of strength. See you next time.